This is IGN. Christoph Waltz can't teach this stale crime comedy new tricks. This is your IGN review of Old Guy by Eric Adams. They don't make him like Danny Dolinsky anymore. As played with characteristic off-kilter charisma by Christoph Waltz, the aging contract killer at the center of Old Guy swaggers around in a vintage leather jacket, exchanges playfully cutting banter with his criminal associates, and sports a shaggy coiffure. That all prompts a disappointing indicator of this crime comedy's joke-telling ability. The 90s called "They Want Your Haircut Back." In short, Dolinsky is another era's idea of cool, something that's made abundantly clear when he's assigned to train the overzealous upstart played by Cooper Hoffman, who could take his place as London's top hired gun. And once our homicidal odd couple picks up a third wheel played by Lucy Liu, Old Guy starts to feel like a bygone era's idea of a cool movie, the sort of thing Quentin Tarantino or Steven Soderbergh would have populated with underworld smart alecks and crate-digging needle drops when Dolinsky was at his peak. And I say this as someone of the age to have a sense of nostalgia for such things. This just doesn't land. The throwback vibes are subtle, but the exploration of aging is not. Just as Old Guy director Simon West has fewer opportunities to pull out his old Con Air flash these days, Dolinsky is frustrated by his employer's lowered expectations and a bum shooting hand. That seems like it should be enough for a diverting but unmemorable caper, but this one unfortunately crams in a whole buddy movie arc and a half-hearted romance too. And even then, it needs to pad out a plot involving an ill-fated trip to Belfast and a hostile mob takeover to get across the 90-minute mark. There are times when Old Guy mimics the rope-a-dope tactics of its protagonist, its outward doddering giving way to a level of surprise and impact it doesn't seem capable of. A target's relative pulled out of the line of fire with a little How the Grinch Stole Christmas routine, or a briefly pulse-elevating car chase. But scenes like these are exceptions. So many others are driven by characters and relationships, and those are dragged down by Dolinsky's failure to convincingly or meaningfully click with Hoffman's Wilborg or Lou Zanata. I mean, you have to hand it to screenwriter Greg Johnson. His script may not be particularly novel or memorable, but the character names sure are. At least Old Guy has a firm grasp on its actual Old Guy. Much of that credit goes to Waltz, who's in his element as the underestimated charmer talking his way through sticky situations, and sporting an immaculate mustache. There's a lot of work put in to earn our sympathy for him, which makes sense given his line of work. He's a professional murderer, but he's a professional murderer in a vulnerable state, recovering from surgery and threatened by the presence of young gun Wilborg. Old Guy is at least aware of its limitations to keep its action sequences sensible, showing Dolinsky's particular set of skills through on-the-fly ingenuity rather than any superhuman gun-fu. It doesn't make for the most thrilling shootouts, and his deadly accuracy eventually robs any standoff of its suspense, but it is amusing to see him take out multiple adversaries at once by applying his skills with munitions in the kitchen. As a showcase for the quirky charms of Christoph Waltz, Old Guy isn't a regrettable 90 minutes, but it's not a particularly memorable crime comedy either. And as a new evolution of the type of movie that had its heyday when Waltz's Danny Dolinsky was at the top of the contract killing game, it's a lacking shadow of a Grosse Pointe Blank or a Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. There's no snap to the dialogue, no thrill to a majority of the action, and the other characters played by Cooper Hoffman and Lucy Liu and their relationships to Dolinsky make no lasting impression. Old Guy's IGN score? 5 out of 10. Thanks for listening to IGN. My name is Tony Jackson, and for the latest Old Guy updates, visit us at IGN.com.
Spoken Layer.